I Am Angus is brought to you by the Igenity Profile for Angus, helping Angus producers everywhere to accelerate genetic progress and reduce risk in genetic investment.
The stockyards in 1865 began as an idea. It was really the consortium of 9 railroads acquiring 320 acres of land, mostly swampland southwest of Chicago, for a price of $100,000 in 1864. And from that emerged perhaps America's most notable industry, the great meatpacking industry of the United States. This really gave Chicago its essential identity. It was packing town. It was dinner for America. In its heyday, there were more than 2,300 separate pens scattered across this area. There were hotels, there were restaurants. This was a thriving city within a city. And today when you look at it, it's quite different than what it was. Chicago was a sooty, polluted, unclean place in those days, but it pulsated. It had its own kind of rhythm. It had its own kind of way of living. And this was a city that was always a city of hustle and muscle, I might add. And the stockyards came to be a major employment area and source of opportunity for the immigrants that followed the first wave of Irish who settled in Bridgeport in the late 1840s. And there was also a raucous lifestyle that went along with it. Big Jim O'Leary was called the gambler boss of the yards, and Jim O'Leary was the son of Catherine O'Leary, the woman whose cow allegedly kicked over the lantern, which started the Great Chicago Fire of October 8, 1871. Big Jim O'Leary, later on in the 1890s and early 1900s, operated a very lavish restaurant, gambling den, hotel, providing accommodations for the stockmen, for the farmers. Gambling was the diversion that so many of these immigrant workers had, and they would often gamble away their meager earnings that they earned here in the stockyards at O'Leary's and other places of the like in this neighborhood. The great changes that were wrought by improvements in transportation, in rails, in the mechanization of society was probably the largest factor that led to the downfall of the Union stockyards in Chicago. But by the same token, the cost of labor in Chicago had escalated. The stockyards were witness to very bloody and costly labor strikes in 1904, 1910, and 1921. And gradually over time, particularly after World War II, that process of change accelerated, so that by 1971, the year that the stockyards officially closed, this was actually a ghost town of what the city had, what the area and what the stockyards had once been. In some ways, the stockyards, the history of the Union stockyards of Chicago, is a metaphor of the American experience. It is a metaphor of capitalism, perhaps to an extreme degree. It is a metaphor of triumph over hardship. It is a metaphor of the power of the American system to correct its social ills. And of course, it'll live on in our memory as a place where history happened, as a place where city met farm, where man and nature came together, where the right of man was preserved in such a way that future generations would benefit from this experience. So often in the city of Chicago, we tend to destroy our past almost wantonly. Old buildings do not stand long. In the rush to develop and redevelop and reinvent the city of Chicago, historic places are often devastated and we lose it to the wrecker's ball. That is certainly the case here in the Stockyards District today. The old International Amphitheater, which was really the home of all those great international livestock shows for so many years, and had also nominated presidential candidates over the years, and was the scene of the 1968 nomination of Hubert Humphrey for president. That too has been destroyed. We as a city are collectively guilty of burying our past, and we tend to forget. But occasionally we do leave a few iconic mementos of the past, such as that stone gate. It's here, and it's the last visible reminder of this great industry.